We're talking about how gardening can help your recovery. I've got Recovered Life contributor and sober coach, Shauna McKinnovick on the line. How you doing, Shauna?
Oh gosh, Damon, I'm so excited about today's segment that I'm just doing fantastic actually.
It is so great to have you back on the show. Look, this is a passionate topic for people who garden that are also in recovery. I know not everybody is going to see the title of this and get this, but we're going to dive into the whole area of gardening and actually how it can help your recovery. So I know you've had a personal experience with this about gardening, recovery, how
Mhm.
you mesh the two together, and how that all started.
Right. Well, let me tell you, Damon, I don't claim to be an expert on much, and I don't claim to be an expert on this, but I will say that I'm a self-proclaimed recovery gardening expert. Guru. Actually, I'm going to take guru. Okay. I'm a self-proclaimed gardening recovery or recovery gardening guru because I have used it in my approach for as part of my holistic plan for recovery. I just sort of fell into gardening as something, and then I saw how much it benefited me. It was and how it continues to benefit me, that I proclaim it to anyone who will listen. And let me tell you, people will tell me, okay, that's enough, Shauna, we've heard enough about native plants. Okay. But I get real excited about it because there are so many benefits.
It's interesting because, like I said at the very beginning of this segment, not everybody's going to get this, but if you've had the experience of actually gardening, whether that is just, plants for just, for scenic kind of stuff, landscaping, or if it's actually, in my case, I like to do, vegetables, fruits, stuff like that. It really is super empowering, Shauna. Like there's something about it, and it ties so well into the whole recovery journey. I always say it's a way to be able to kind of, in a way, figure things out. It allows me to
Mhm.
figure things out on that journey. Let's talk a little bit about the history of this, because we're not just pulling this out of the air, right? Like there is actually some sort of data and history behind how it can actually help you.
There is time proven. It's time proven. It's a time proven therapy. Horticultural therapy is what it's called, was first recognized back in the early 19th century by Dr. Benjamin Rush, who's also known as the father of American psychiatry. But here's a little known tidbit. He was also a signer of the Declaration of Independence. So we're talking, it's a while ago, and he introduced plant and plant-based activity for therapy to treat patients with mental illness that he saw in sanatoriums. So we have some really good roots, no pun intended, for this therapy as a modality for recovery.
What do you think it does for you? Like I've had, it's one of these things that's very hard to explain. It's kind of in a way very similar to explaining to somebody who wants to get sober what sobriety is like if they have no experience in it, right? It's similar. It's a similar kind of thing. I find that like it's such also a break from what people do day to day now in life. Most people are not living off the land. They're not, in the dirt, walking around. They're not doing that kind of stuff. They're in front of a computer like this. They're talking on the phone. They have gadgets constantly. But
Mhm.
pulling away from all of that, even if it's like a half an hour, 15 minutes a day, to be able to see something grow, to see something that you planted and do that, it does have this kind of magic. It creates kind of a magic experience.
Right, exactly, Damon. And so, to your point, to see something grow, it teaches us perseverance. It also helps with a routine. So, if you have a garden, and in recovery, it's really important to start establishing routines, right? So you feel like you have a little more control over your life. You're not just a tornado rushing through. And that's what my life was like. I was a successful salesperson. I was traveling every week. I ran my family and my home. I took care of everybody. Even when I would go on business trips, I would pre-cook all the meals for the week on a Sunday so that my family wouldn't have to worry about cooking when they were fully capable, but I was doing all of those things. So what happened when I started to, when after I relapsed and then, brought gardening into it. I really just fell into it. I was walking out the back of our property and I couldn't get over how many weeds there were. I hadn't paid attention in a couple of years because I'd been drinking and we were overrun by these invasive weeds. And I just started to learn about them and started to pull them. And so what it brought me down was calm me down into the present, the here and now, and seeing how much I would get overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to get an acre of weeds hand pulled? But I had to bring it back to, it's okay if I just do this next step, this 1 square foot, then I've done this 1 square foot, and then I've achieved something. So there's some success there. And my daughter and I did that over a year. We hand pulled weeds over this acre. So it was methodical. It was a routine. We went out every day. And here she was, I think she was 12 or 13 at the time. She says, Mom, this is so satisfying, pulling this and seeing the results.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting. It is kind of a metaphor for what's going on internally with us. I think a lot of the times in recovery, I always know it's kind of like it's kind of like having a baby. Like there might be things in your sobriety, like letting go. Like I was just in a meeting the other day and the topic was letting go. Somebody who has, 30 days and somebody who has 30 years, they might be letting go of different things, but that process is the same. But gardening, like you said, I have to water it. I have to pull these weeds. I have to do these certain things. It's actually a physical representation. You can actually see it happening. How has it helped you specifically with certain recovery issues, Shauna?
So for a couple of ways, more than a couple of ways. One, I have high ADHD. So part of the research shows that being able to be out in nature and doing things, like weeding, using your left and right hands, that it really helps with your ADHD. Feet on the ground, on grass, out in nature, it helps with that. So that contributes to it. It has benefits of decreasing stress and improving overall positive feelings. That's really important, especially in early recovery. You still feel like crap. You feel like a failure. You feel like all these things. But if you take a plant, if you go out, say you wanted to get started on this and you order some grow bags from Amazon, you get some soil and you plant a plant. And then each day, you have to go out and water it and you start to see the changes. You can see, just like you said, the metaphor for life, that the growth and what happens. And, then you're out there and you're pulling some weeds and you take it away. So for me, it was all encompassing. I was doing all this weed stuff, but I was also learning how to train my brain again, because my brain went a bit soft in my relapse because I wasn't doing anything, but I was learning. I was learning about different plants, about native plants, about the benefits of them for the ecosystem and what plants should I plant. And, so I'm learning, I'm engaged, I am building my own confidence that here I'm learning something completely new that I never thought I would, I used to be the girl that went and got manicures. Now I have what I call the opposite French manicure. It's the French gardening manicure. Instead of the white on the end of your nails, I have dirt under my fingernails. So it looks like I have black because, there's something about putting your hands in the soil, the warmth, the life-giving thing of it. So, gosh, that didn't really answer your question directly, but I know that if I need a break in the middle of the day, I walk out to my garden and I take a look and see how things are growing, how things are doing, might pull a few weeds. It gives me a chance to stop and take a breath and be here now.
Absolutely. You talked about ADHD, and I know a lot of times, in recovery, they really push meditation. Like I know meditation, and we talk about meditation on the Recovered Life show. And we have, meditation meetings, and it's so amazing. I love meditation.
Yeah,
but
me too.
But honestly, I move very fast. My mind moves very fast. It's very, very hard. And one of the things with recovery that I found over the years of being sober and also working with other people, Shauna, is that a lot of the times we don't see the growth in ourselves. And one of the things that gardening did for me, which was interesting, was that I started to see it's like, oh, I started like little seedlings and now I've got a small tomato plant and now I'm growing tomatoes and oh my God, it was so exciting, right? And that I could see actually what my contribution was actually doing, right? And so many times I feel in recovery, we don't see our own growth, even though we're doing the work, we're pulling the weeds, we're watering, we're
Right.
doing the stuff in our own recovery, but we can't really see it. We easily see it in other people. We'll applaud other people and see it, but we can't see it in ourselves. And, one of the things that gardening did for me was to kind of give myself a break a little bit to say, hey, I'm doing all the work. I'm growing, even though I don't necessarily see it. Just like that seed was growing, I'm growing too.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of it like that, but that's a really insightful way to look at it, because we are growing and we are doing it. If we stay the course and we continue to focus on our different recovery different things to help our recovery, we are growing. If we're stagnant, then, if we forget to water, the garden is going to die. But, there are some other benefits, right? We start to increase some physical fitness by being out in the garden. We start to be aware, say you decide to grow your own food, a few tomato plants or cucumbers. You realize how different and wonderful they taste, that you start to seek out more vegetables, say from the farmer's market. So what's that doing to, the community? And you have a better awareness of how to nourish your body. Well, if this tastes good, it must be nourishing my body well. So, those are two things that are really important in recovery: exercise and nourishment. And then, we talked a bit about perseverance. That plant, that cucumber doesn't grow, but I'll tell you, we get some delightful surprises too. I was away in California this weekend and I had the great chance to meet you and chat, but I came back and we had so much rain that my tomatoes and my cucumbers need to be retied up. And what a surprise in 4 days that much growth could take place. So there's a lot of delight as well, that I think is a benefit, those surprises. Who doesn't like little surprises every day?
Absolutely. Shauna, I'm sure people are listening to this and saying, this is kind of cool, but I don't have, 40 acres. I don't have, I might not have a backyard. I maybe just have a balcony, or, how do I do this? Right. Even if you have the space, how do you actually get started in this and make that recovery centered garden?
Okay. Well, I would say to start, the smallest way you could start, the easiest way you could start is go for a walk in a park or on a hiking trail. Start to look at the different plants. You can use Google picture, whatever, and it will help you identify. Start to identify what's a weed, what's a plant. That's the simplest, because then you start to have an appreciation for what's around you. So that's, like meditation, going for a walk, the exercise, and a bit of learning. If you live on a balcony, or if you live on 40 acres, and you just want to start small and you want to grow well, you have to decide, are you going to grow plants or vegetables? You can always buy some grow bags from that really big online retailer, have it delivered the next day, then whip out to Home Depot or Lowe's. I'm not being paid by those, but whip out to your big box stores to get some soil. And then you can buy some plants. You can go to your local farmer's market at this time of year to buy some plants. And you can do those as long as you have some sun and water. You can water your plants, you can get started, and you'll see, if it's not thriving, I need to move it somewhere inside my apartment where there is more light. Or guess what? You could even buy grow lights. You can even buy some grow lights online as well that can help you. So those are two ways to get started. And then the third thing, we always talk about community and connection as an antidote to addiction. There are so many ways where gardening can enhance community. So you can go to your local extension office. Every county has it, or if you have a local university, you can ask them questions. They might have groups. They might have early learning how to garden groups. There are at nurseries and garden stores, they'll offer classes as well, and you start to grow. But then the easiest way is to look up groups on social media. I belong to one that's my local backyard gardeners for my vegetable. I belong to the Native Plant Forum, and so they help you with identify and growing things. And then I also belong to a foragers group. That's another way, you're foraging you can go out and forage mushrooms and everything. There's just so many opportunities for connection and community as well. So easy, get started, buy a grow bag, or you can buy a raised garden bed. If you do have a backyard, just pick a sunny spot or mostly sunny spot, and you can get going.
I just have to give some testimony on this, and I've had this personal experience. I think one of the issues in recovery for men is that sometimes guys aren't the best at connecting. They don't know how to connect, right? Like that is an issue with men. Like I'm just
Okay.
and I had a home group here in Los Angeles, a 12-step group that I attended for years. And one of the guys who had a really hard time, he was connecting with people, but he wasn't a super social person. And he went to a little public garden that they had here in the valley, and he started
Mhm.
growing things. And this became a huge thing. And he met people, and he'd bring people out to the garden. He was very involved in 12 steps. He'd bring sponsees out. They'd have plants there that they did. And it really changed his whole life. I saw it change his whole life. It's really a powerful thing. Final thought, Shauna, for anybody out there that's thinking about doing this, what's your advice?
My advice is just get to a garden center and ask a question, because or find someone that you know that gardens, because we will talk ad nauseum. We will help you as much as we can. We love it so much. Gardeners love it so much, and they want everyone to garden. And so that would be my thing. And don't be afraid. Things die all the time. All my seedlings died this year. I can't figure out why, but they died, and I started them too late. I just start again, and I bought some plants from the farmer's market of someone who's that. So don't be afraid to try.
You know what, Shauna? I always said if it died, it was an old idea, right? I just let it go. I just let it go. Shauna
Just
McKinnon,
let it go.
thanks so
Okay.
much for coming on the show
Thanks,
today.
Damon. Always a pleasure. See you next week. Bye.
Sometimes addiction recovery can be a lonely battle, but you don't have to fight it alone. At Recovered Life, we're dedicated to helping you live your best recovered life. And that's why we're inviting you to subscribe to our free weekly newsletter. Every week, we carefully curate exclusive content from leading minds in addiction recovery, mental health, and all things important to the recovery lifestyle. Stay in the know with the latest news about addiction and get exclusive invitations to special recovery-focused events and explore insights tailored to support recovery from alcoholism, drug addiction, codependency, disordered eating, dysfunctional family dynamics, gambling, and so much more. With our newsletter, each week becomes an opportunity for growth, healing, and taking a step closer to the life you deserve. Take your first step towards a brighter future today. Go to recoveredlife.us and subscribe for free. Sign up now at recoveredlife.us.